Puglan Yagalidu Knolhukbin. Greetings, how are you doing? I am Siqaiyuk. I am reading chapter 11 of 1001 Nights. When it was the 11th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the lady, after laughing at the porter despite her wrath, came up to the party and spake thus. Tell me who ye be, for ye have but an hour of life, and were ye not men of rank, and perhaps notables of your tribes, you had not been so forward, and I had hastened your doom." Then said the Caliph, "Woe to thee, O Ja'afar! Tell her who we are, lest we be slain by mistake, and speak her fair before some horror befall us." "'Tis part of thy deserts," replied he. Whereupon the Caliph cried out at him, saying, "There is a time for witty words, and there's a time for serious work." Then the lady accosted the 3 Kalandars and asked them, "Are ye brothers?" When they answered, "No, by Allah, we be naught but fakirs and foreigners." Then quoth she to one among them, "Wast thou born blind of one eye?" And quoth he, "No, by Allah, 'twas a marvellous matter, and a wondrous mischance which caused my eye to be torn out, and mine is a tale which, if it were written upon the eye corners with needle gravers, were a warner to whoso would be warned." She questioned the second and third Kalandar, but all replied like the first, "By Allah, O our mistress, each one of us cometh from a different country, and we are all 3 the sons of kings, sovereign princes ruling over suzerains in capital cities." Thereupon she turned toward them and said, "Let each and every one of you tell me his tale in due order, and explain the cause of his coming to our place. If his story please us, let him stroke his head and wend his way." The first to come forward was the Hamal, the porter, who said, "O my lady, I am a man and a porter. This dame, this cateress, hired me to carry a load, and took me first to the shop of a vintner, then to the booth of a butcher, and thence to the stall of a fruiterer, thence to a grocer, and also sold dry fruits, thence to a confectioner and a perfume cum druggist, and from him to this place, where there happened to me with you what happened. Such is my story, and peace be on us all." At this the lady laughed and said, "Rub thy head and wend thy ways." But he cried, "By Allah, I will not stump it till I hear the stories of my companions." Then came forward one of the monoculars and began to tell her the first Kalandar's tale. "Know, O my lady, that the cause of my beard being shorn and my eye being torn out was as follows. My father was a king, and he had a brother who was a king over another city. And it came to pass that I and my cousin, the son of my paternal uncle, were both born on one and the same day. And years and days rolled on, and as we grew up, I used to visit my uncle every now and then, and to spend a certain number of months with him. Now my cousin and I were sworn friends, for he ever treated me with exceeding kindness. He killed for me the fattest sheep, and strained the best of his wines, and we enjoyed long conversing and carousing. One day when the wine had gotten the better of us, the son of my uncle said to me, 'O my cousin, I have a great service to ask of thee, and I desire that thou stay me not in whatso I desire to do.' And I replied, 'With joy and goodly will.' Then he made me swear the most binding oaths and left me. But after a little while he returned, leading a lady veiled and richly apparelled, with ornaments worth a large sum of money. Presently he turned to me, the woman being still behind him, and said, 'Take this lady with thee, and go before me to such a burial ground,' describing it so that I knew the place, 'and enter with her into a sepulchre, and there await my coming.' The oath I swore to him made me keep silence, and suffered me not to oppose him. So I led the lady to the cemetery, and both I and her took our seats in the sepulchre. And hardly had we sat down, when in came my uncle's son, with a bowl of water, a bag of mortar, and an adze somewhat like a hoe. He went straight to the tomb in the midst of the sepulchre, and breaking it open with the adze, set the stones to one side. Then he fell to digging in the earth of the tomb, till he came upon a large iron plate, the size of a wicket door, and on raising it there appeared below it a staircase vaulted and winding. Then he turned to the lady and said to her, 'Come now, and take thy final choice. She at once went down by the staircase and disappeared. Then quoth he to me, O son of my uncle, by way of completing thy kindness, when I shall have descended into this place, restore the trapdoor to where it was, and heap back the earth upon it as it lay before, and then of thy great goodness mix this unslacked lime which is in the bag with this water which is in the bowl, and after building up the stones, plaster the outside so that none looking upon it shall say, This is a new opening in an old tomb. For a whole year have I worked at this place, whereof none knoweth but Allah, and this is the need I have of thee. Presently adding, May Allah never bereave thy friends of thee, nor make them desolate by thine absence, O son of my uncle, O my dear cousin. And he went down the stairs and disappeared forever. When he was lost to sight, I replaced the iron plate and did all his bidding, till the tomb became as it was before, and I worked almost unconsciously, for my head was heated with wine. Returning to the palace of my uncle, I was told he had gone forth a-sporting and hunting. So I slept that night without seeing him, and when morning dawned, I remembered the scenes of the past evening and what happened between me and my cousin. I repented of having obeyed him with penitence was of no avail. I still thought, however, that this was a dream. So I fell to asking for the son of my uncle, but there was none to answer me concerning him, and I went out to the graveyard and the sepulchres, and sought for the tomb under which he was, but could not find it. And I ceased not wandering about from sepulchre to sepulchre, and tomb to tomb, all without success, till night set in. So I returned to the city, yet I could neither eat nor drink, my thoughts being engrossed with my cousin, for that I knew not what was become of him, and I grieved with exceeding grief, and passed another sorrowful night, watching until the morning. Then I went a second time to the cemetery, pondering over what the son of my uncle had done, and sorely repenting my hearkening to him, went round among all the tombs, but could not find the tomb I sought. I mourned over the past, and remained in my mourning 7 days, seeking the place, and ever missing the path. Then my torture of sepulchres grew upon me, till I well nigh went mad, and I found no way to dispel my grief save travel and return to my father. So I set out and journeyed homeward, but as I was entering my father's capital, a crowd of rioters sprang upon me and pinioned me. I wondered thereat with all wonderment, seeing that I was the son of the Sultan, and that these men were my father's subjects, and amongst them were some of my own slaves. A great fear fell upon me, and I said to my soul, Would heaven I knew what hath happened to my father. I questioned those that bound me of the cause of their doing, but they returned me no answer. However, after a while, one of them said to me, and he had been a hired servant of our house, Fortune hath been false to thy father. His troops betrayed him, and the wazir who slew him now reigneth in his stead, and we lay in wait to seize thee by the bidding of him. I was well nigh distraught, and felt ready to faint on hearing of my father's death, when they carried me off and placed me in the presence of the usurper. Now between me and him there was an olden grudge, the cause of which was this. I was fond of shooting with the stone bow, and it befell one day as I was standing on the terrace roof of the palace, that a bird alighted on the top of the wazir's house when he happened to be there. I shot at the bird and missed the mark, but I hit the wazir's eye and knocked it out as fate and fortune decreed. Even so saith the poet. We tread the path where fate hath led, the path fate writ we fain must tread, and man in one land doomed to die, death nowhere else shall do him dead. And unlikewise saith another, Let fortune have her wanton way, take heart and all her words obey, nor joy nor mourning at anything, for all things pass and no thing stay. Now when I knocked out the wazir's eye, he could not say a single word, for that my father was king of the city. But he hated me ever after, and dire was the grudge thus caused between us twain. So when I was set before him, hand bound and pinioned, he straightway gave orders for me to be beheaded. I asked, For what crime wilt thou put me to death? Whereupon he answered, What crime is greater than this? Pointing the while to the place where his eye had been. Quoth I, This I did by accident, not of malice, prepense. And quoth he, If thou didst it by accident, I will do the like by thee with intention. Then cried he, Bring him forward. And they brought me up to him, when he thrust his finger into my left eye and gouged it out, whereupon I became one-eyed, as ye see me. Then he bade me hand and foot, and put me into a chest, and said to the sworder, Take charge of this fellow, and go off with him to the wastelands about the city. Then draw thy scimitar and slay him. Leave him to feed the beasts and birds. So the herdsman fared forth with me, and when he was in the midst of the desert, he took me out of the chest. And I with both hands pinioned and both feet fettered, and was about to bandage my eye before striking off my head. But I wept with exceeding weeping, until I made him weep with me. Looking at him, I began to recite these couplets. I deemed you coat o' mail that should withstand the foreman's shafts, and he proved foreman's brand. I hoped your aidance in mine in every chance, though flail my left to aid my dexter hand. Aloof you stand and hear the railers gibe, while rain their shafts on me the gibe band. But an eye will not guard me from my foes. Stand clear and succor neither these nor those. And also I quoted, I deemed my brethren male of strongest steel, and so they were, from foes to fend my dart. I deemed their arrows surest of their aim, and so they were when aiming at my heart. When the herdsman heard my lines, he had been sworder to my sire, and he owed me a debt of gratitude. He cried, O my lord, what can I do, but being a slave under orders? Presently adding, Fly for thy life, and never more return to this land, or they will slay thee, and slay me with thee. Even as the poet said, Take thy life, and fly when us evil threats. Let the ruined house tell its owner's fate. New land for the old thou shalt seek and find, but to find new life thou must not await. Strange that man should sit in the stead of shame, when Allah's world is so wide and great, and trust no other in matters grave. Life itself must act for a life beset. Ne'er would prowl the lion with maned neck, did he reckon on aid or others' wreck. Hardly believing my escape, I kissed his hand and thought of the loss of my eye a light matter in consideration of my escaping from being slain. I arrived at my uncle's capital, and, going in to him, told him of what had befallen my father and myself, whereat he wept with sore weeping, and said, Verily, thou addest grief to my heart, and woe to my woe, for thy cousin hath been missing these many days. I wot not what hath happened to him, and none can give me news of him. And he wept till he fainted. I sorrowed and condoled him with him, and he would have applied certain medicaments to my eye, but he saw that it was become as a walnut with the shell empty. Then he said, O my son, better to lose eye and keep life. After that I could no longer remain silent about my cousin, who was his only son and one dearly loved. So I told him all that had happened. He rejoiced with extreme joyance to hear the news of his son, and said, Come now, and show me the tomb. But I replied, By Allah, O my uncle, I know not its place, though I sought it carefully full many times, yet could not find the site. However, I and my uncle went to the graveyard, and looked left and right, till at last I recognized the tomb, and we both rejoiced with exceeding joy. We entered the sepulchre, and loosened the earth about the grave. Then, upraising the trap-door, descended some 50 steps till we came to the foot of the staircase, when, lo, we were stopped by a blinding smoke. Thereupon said my uncle that saying whose sayer shall never come to shame, There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah, the glorious, the great. And we advanced till we suddenly came upon a saloon, whose floor was strewn with flour and grain, and provisions, and all manner of necessaries. And in the midst of it stood a canopy sheltering a couch. Thereupon my uncle went to the couch, and inspecting it, found his son and the lady who had gone down with him into the tomb, lying in each other's embrace. But the twain had become black as charred wood, as it was as if they had been cast into a pit of fire. When my uncle saw this spectacle, he spat in his son's face, and said, Thou hast thy deserts, O thou hog. This is thy judgment in the transitory world, yet remaineth the judgment in the world to come, a durer and more enduring. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. It's the end of chapter 11. If you made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe. Press the circle to subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested, check out the other playlists I have. See you in the next chapter. Bye.